Hello and welcome to a DFS Preview for the 2023 Charles Schwab Challenge. My name is Eric and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. And these preview videos, it's all about going over the stats you want to find in the golfers to build your lineups around. So we're going to be taking a look at the bucket system, which helps us do just that. It's not about just finding one stat and building your lineups around all of them. You got to find a little bit of diversity within your lineups in order to, one, take down a GPP, but two, hit the optimal lineup. So that's what we're going to do with the bucket system. That'll be at the end of the video. Before that, we're going to go over the course and tournament information. We'll go over pass optimal in GPP winning lineups. We'll review the PGA Championship. And I'll show you how the sweet spot process did last week because I want to give you confidence in using the sweet spot process this week. But before we get into any of those things, some reminders. I like to do some giveaways. The first one being a subscriber giveaway. Now, I do a weekly and a monthly giveaway. You see the monthly giveaway on the screen, but the weekly giveaway follows the exact same rules. You got to be subscribed and you got to participate on the channel. So that just requires you to comment on any of my videos. Now, if you need topics to go over, I put out maybe like 5 to 6 different videos every single week. Just give me your 2 favorite golfers you're going to build your lineups around. That's all you got to do. So whenever you see a video of mine, just go down in the comment section, leave 2 golfers that you want to play this week, and you get credit. You'll get an entry into the giveaway. Now, you only get 1 free entry per video. So if I put out 6 this week, you'll get 6 free entries. That goes towards the weekly giveaway for the Monday, the next Monday video that I do, but it also goes towards the monthly giveaway. And the monthly giveaway, I'm giving $50 away. If I didn't say the weekly giveaway, that's $5. I'll give $5 away every single week. I'll give $50 away if we reach the sub goal all the way over there to the left. Do you see it over there? 544 out of 550 subscribers. The goal is to reach 550 by the end of the month. We're 6 subscribers away. So if you're not yet subscribed, highly encourage you to do so because then you'll help push us over that goal and then we'll run it for $50. If we don't reach the sub goal, I'll give away a t-shirt with this logo on it. SweetSpotDFS, I mean, it's going to be flipped for you. It's going to be the right side around when it comes your way. I just have it flipped for the streaming purposes. So it's either $50 or it's a t-shirt. Or some people have been asking for logo golf balls because they already have enough t-shirts. So I also have logo golf balls. We can figure something out when it comes to the monthly giveaway. You're not going to go away empty-handed. I like to reward those that participate on the channel. So all of that's available to you. Also, if you didn't know, I have a PrizePicks promo code called SweetSpot. If you use that while signing up and put $20 in your account, I am going to give you your $20 back. That allows you to play PrizePicks for free. Plus, PrizePicks is going to match your deposit up to $100. So the 20 actually turns into 40, and it really requires you just to sign up using the promo code and put that initial deposit of $20 in your account. If you want a link to this, the site, check the description of the video. You can find it there. It'll get you to the home page. For whatever reason, doesn't get you to the sign up page. But once you click sign up, you'll already see the Sweet Spot promo code in the promo code section. So you don't even have to type that in for yourselves. It's already there. So one way to make life easy. But again, if you want to play PrizePicks for free, one of the best things that PrizePicks has been doing that me and my friends take advantage of, every Friday they have a protected flex. So you put a $20 entry in, make sure it's a flex play, not a power play. So you got to have like 4 or more picks. Put $20 and go ahead, put it on golf. If you want some picks, like some recommendations, I can certainly give it to you. Otherwise, Discord. There's a PrizePicks Discord. There's a lot of people in that community for golf that give away picks. Go ahead, put 6 picks into it. $20 worth it towards it, I should say. Get that 30 times multiplier. Who knows? Maybe you'll hit the lottery. And if you don't, if you lose all your money, PrizePicks will credit your $20 back. So you get to do it again the next Friday. Like it's literally, it's free money. So if you are not on PrizePicks yet, check the description of this video. You won't be disappointed. Again, you're going to get $20 back from me just by using the promo code SweetSpot and putting $20 in your account. Now, these are all like the monetary giveaways. I also provide a cheat sheet Let me go ahead and put that on the screen. You can actually find that in the description of this. So while I'm going through any of the videos that I'll be doing this week, whether it's the preview video you see here or the strategy video that I'll put out either tomorrow, it'll be out tomorrow. It might not be a live version, by the way. Maybe the same scenario that I had last week, but last week turned out wonderful. So I might have a short strategy video Tuesday. And when I go over that video, and also if I do a live chat Wednesday, this sheet that you see on the screen right now is available to you guys. Check the description of the video here. You'll see a link that goes to this sheet or to the site. All this information is yours to use at your own disposal. If you want to copy it, all you got to do is go up to the file menu, make a copy. You can copy all the data. You can actually modify the data if you want to better fit your means of doing fantasy golf this week. However you want it, just go ahead and make a copy. Now, you don't have to make a copy. You can use all the filters that I'll be using throughout this video. Go ahead, use the DraftKings filter on the Dream Sheet. On the bucket system, I also have a filter here called the bucket system. You can use all these things because I will be doing all of those, or I'll be using those filters throughout the preview video as well as the strategy video. So if you want to follow along or if you want to do this on your own, check the link in the description below that says cheat sheet. It brings you right here. And in fact, if you just want to bookmark it, I update it every single week. I update it right before I go live. So it's available to you usually Monday evenings. So that's available to you. I'll also have an optimizer out there. I'll have it ready for tomorrow. So during the strategy video, I'll be using it. If we're live, I should say, if we're live, I'll be using it to build lineups. Either way, I'll still have it available tomorrow. If I'm not live, okay, so take that back. If I'm live, I'll be using it, and you can comment in the live chat saying, "Hey, I'd like to use the optimizer." Or if you're not in the live chat, that's fine. Go ahead, email me, say, "Hey, I'd like to use the optimizer this week." Now, you got to be subscribed to the channel and you got to participate. I need to see at least one comment from you somewhere. And then I will send it to you. So it's my way to reward you for participating on my channel. That optimizer will be ready tomorrow. I'll just go ahead and pull up last week's optimizer just so you understand what it looks like. I do have a video in the description that explains about it. So this is how I figure out, this is the optimizer, but it has limited players on here. This is how I figure out the optimal lineup every single week. So after the tournament's done, I'll just grab the 20 highest scorers, put them here, change all my salaries around. I'll first find the optimal, and then I'll find the sweet spot optimal, which is following the sweet spot process. So that's why it looks messy, but this is what I use. I will have this updated. I just need to have the tee times first before I send it out. Otherwise, I'll have to send a second one out to you regardless. So I save time and I save any confusion by just waiting until the tee times are out before I send it out. So that's what we have. Those are all the giveaway reminders. We can go ahead and get started. Let's go over the tournament and course information. So for the Charles Schwab Challenge, if you didn't already know, well, let's start with one thing first. We're going to start with the golf course. If you didn't already know, the Charles Schwab Challenge is at Colonial Country Club. And Colonial is an old-timey golf course, if you want an old traditional golf course. It takes a lot of skill. It's a lot of methodical golf. So right away, the first thought that comes to mind is golfers who can piece together, like, they're very analytical, very strategic. That's a perfect fit for this golf course. You can see there's a lot of, I have a lot of preferred shot shapes when it comes to this golf course. You know, I'm saying there's a fade off the first tee and a fade on approach that's beneficial. Now, everything that you see on the screen isn't an end-all be-all. Like, a lot of people kind of come out, or they'll come at me and be like, yeah, you don't need to do that. You could just club down on the first hole and you don't have to hit a fade around. And that's true. You certainly could. You can play a golf course many different ways. I'm looking at scoring potential. And the closer you can get the ball to the hole on any given shot, the better it is for scoring possibilities. That's how the strokes gain stats are built, by the way. If you didn't already know that, that's how they're built. The closer you can get the ball to the hole, the better your previous shot was. So in order to do that on hole one, I consider you need to hit a fade off the tee box. Same applies for the approach shot. hitting a fade will get you to most of the pin positions. So that's how I feel when it comes to looking at a golf course. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a whole course breakdown and give you all these, you know, stats and facts and stuff like that that really don't pertain to fantasy golf. That's what a lot of people do with the breakdowns. I'm not going to do that. That's all you're going to get from me. Basically, what I'll do is show you kind of this little summary down here to let you know what kind of shots matter, what kind of shots don't. So take that with however you want. I mean, I would suggest pausing the video, maybe taking a screenshot. I'll keep it up here. If you're interested in this, that way you can have it. Otherwise, if not, you know, one thing to note is it's pretty fair. Looks like it's a shot shaper's golf course for the most part. Doesn't require that many different shot shapes, but being able to work the ball both directions, you know, in control, that's a huge factor about this. So those golfers that you know do work it both ways pretty efficiently, those are golfers that I think excel at this type of golf course. Wonderful thing about this, I had that written into the cheat sheet. So you see column P. So if you go check out the description of this video, you see cheat sheets there. It'll send you here to this site. I have shot shapes in here. Now, if you're wondering, why should I take your word for it? Well, I went to college for golf course management. I started my PGA membership by taking the PAT, passing it right away. I was a medalist for the PAT, which is your player ability test, by the way. So that is the PGA's way of telling everyone else I'm good enough to give lessons, which I do in my, you know, I'm not in the golf industry anymore, but I still give lessons on the side. It's a fun, I love giving lessons. So that's a fun thing for me. I use my eyeballs to analyze every single golfer here. I know their preferred shot shape, and that's what you see on the screen. Like, I know most of these golfers can shape it both directions, but when push comes to shove, if a golfer is going to choose a golf shot, it's the one you see on the screen. Now, I will say the last time I really dug into shot shapes was the beginning of this year, so there could be some changes, and if you do see any, let me know. But for the most part, I have most of the golfers' shot shapes on here that I have seen them hit. I have also heard broadcasters talk about their that is what these golfers' preferred shot shapes are. I've also heard some of these golfers say, I would rather hit this shot or that shot. Like Jordan Spieth, I'd give you, although his preferred shot shape is a draw, he hits way more fades. So why don't we just give him a both? He likes to shape the shot, or shape golf balls both directions. And you can see that with some of these golfers. Like I've noticed Brian Harman shapes it both directions. He's a lefty that primarily hits a draw, but I've seen him successfully hit a fade. So that's why I have both. So that kind of applies for most of the golfers here. Now, some of them are incomplete. You know, Denny McCarthy, I'm pretty sure hits a fade, but I can't be fully certain on that. Same goes with Tom Hoagie. Yeah, there we go. I thought Hoagie was empty. I'm not sure what Minwoo Lee does. I'll be the first to admit I haven't really watched a lot of Minwoo Lee. I know he's talented. I know he can spanks the ball pretty far. I don't really know his preferred shot shape. But for most of these golfers, I have that. So going back to my kind of my golf course analysis when it comes to shot shapes, you know, like I said, some of these I just see the golf course in the way. And that's the other thing to go along with this is I look at every single golf course, whether it's from a satellite image or a flyover. Can't tell you what I did for the Charles Schwab Challenge. I did this last year, or maybe it was the year before. But it's the Colonial Country Club, not the Charles Schwab Challenge. It's the Colonial Country Club. So as I see it, as I would play it, I can see certain carry distances, and those carry distances, depending if there's a dog leg, that affects what shot shape that I'm considering is preferred. So I'm analyzing the golf course, trying to figure out what the shot shapes are. I also analyze the golf swings to let you know what type of shot shapes those golfers hit. So it's kind of a whole one for one, you know, like I'm kind of giving you the preferred shot shapes as I see it and what those golfers' preferred shot shapes are. Now, if you wanted to know like what importance you should put on that, out of 100 points, I'd only put 5 at most. At most. To me, it's more of a tiebreaker. Because if so hole 1 is a par 5, 565 yards. You can see it's a dog leg right par 5. A fade will help for tee shots over 300 yards, and going for the green will benefit for hitting, okay, that's from hitting a draw from the left side of the fairway. Otherwise, trees might get in the way on the right side. So the right side of the fairway, you know, kind of a little blocked by trees. If a golfer can position themselves to the left side of the fairway, they can hit any shot shape they want. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, they hit it in the middle of the fairway, or maybe they overfade it, and now they've got those trees to contend with on the right. A fade into the hole is going to be preferred. And that's why I have it like that. But the first shot off the tee, I think, is a fade. Now, a par 5, I want my golfers to have the ability to go for it in 2. I want an eagle opportunity. That's 8 points on DraftKings. That's something you got to consider. So the very first thing, hole number 1, a fade. So then when I go to the cheat sheet, which I'll pull up again, the first 3 golfers I have up here hit fades. You got Scheffler, you've got Finau, and Hovland hit fades. So does Morikawa, so the top 4. Max Homa, I know, can shot shape. He can shape in both directions, and let's just give him that. So he wouldn't be terrible. We have Jordan Spieth that can also shape it both directions. I don't really trust his fade as much as I trust his draw. But you can see a lot of these guys up here hit fades. Tommy Fleetwood, on the other hand, I can tell you right now, not very good at hitting fades. Check out the, what was it, the 2021 Honda Classic. Final hole, needed to hit a fade into the tucked right pin. Hit it in the water because he can't hit a fade. I mean, I'm not saying he can't, but it's not controlled. It's not efficient. And that's how I look. Most of these guys hit fades, so take this with a grain of salt. You know, you don't really have to, like I said, it's not an end all be all. It's just to help with preferred shot shapes. And again, you know, like the very first hole number 1's a par 5. I want an eagle opportunity. A guy who hits a draw, who hits in the rough, might not be able to get to the green in 2, which is fine. He can still get a birdie, no problem. But I want eagle. So that's kind of how I look at this. You know, there's another par 5. By the way, this is a par 70. We'll get into the tournament fact sheets here shortly. But yeah, I think really that's the only hole that we really have to consider being a scoreable hole, something that we can get additional points from. So maybe this is the only hole that really matters, what kind of shot shape you really hit. Because a lot of these other approach shots don't really matter. And that's where scoring is really going to come into play. It's more on the approach. Of course, the off the tee puts you in position to get in a good spot to go for the green, you know. So it all matters. It does. It all matters. But obviously the approach shot is the shot that leads into the hole, or close to the hole, for you to have an easier putt to make. Anyways, that's all what I have for kind of like the course breakdown. Now, just to give you a heads up, if you didn't already know this, you can go to the GC. Let's see, can I zoom in and scroll up? Can you see it? Yeah. So the GCSAA.org, you can go here, check the bottom of the website. You'll see tournament fact sheets. What's lovely about these tournament fact sheets, it'll tell you what the par is. It usually tells you what the stimp meter is. This week it did. Last week it did not at the PGA Championship. It can also show you where the golf course is located for weather. Obviously, you would type this into the weather, figure out, you know, what's going to happen. Is it going to be windy? Is it going to be rainy? What's going, you know, all that good stuff. These are all data points, by the way. That's one thing to always remember. That's what I think a lot of these DFS content creators forget to say. These are all data points. You can use these as data points in your research. So you wanted to use Texas tournaments as a research purpose. You certainly could. I really don't have any issue with that. See if the Texas boys play well in Texas. And if their shot, you know, their strokes gain averages are better in Texas, why not give them a little boost in your guys' models? Might as well. Also look at par 70s that are, you know, 7,200 yards and less. Or somewhere between maybe 71 and 7,300 yards. Or you can even narrow it down from there. Maybe we go 7,150 to 7,250. See how golfers perform there. Maybe put the stimp meter in. You can also look at, you know, average green size, 5,000 square feet. You'd use that as a data point. Really don't think it's that important, but if you wanted to, you can. It's there for you. That's why I like this sheet. You can do whatever you want with this. The big thing for me, though, when it comes to this sheet is looking at the turf grass. This will tell you a lot that you need to know when it just comes to agronomy. You know, if you're looking at putting, you want to look at greens. What grass is on the greens? So if you really wanted to get narrow with your research, what you would do is look at bent grass greens. Even if you could go with short and fast greens, or not short as in like, you know, short as in cut length, because this is pretty short. 1/10 of an inch is pretty short. If you wanted to use this, you certainly could. And maybe just put like, you know, bent grass greens rolling at 12 to 13 inches. Like, or feet, 12 to 13 feet. You could do that. That wouldn't be a huge issue, but it would just be for your putting stat, because when you look at everything else is Bermuda grass. Everything else, tees, fairways, rough. This is your approach. This is your around the green. Look at your Bermuda grass for those stats. But if you don't have access to go that narrow where you can look at putting on bent grass and approaches and around the green on Bermuda, here's what you do instead. You just look at average finishing position. I want a GPP doing that. You certainly can as well. Like, it literally, as long as there's something to add a little bit of a boost to the golfers that are good on these surfaces, that's all that matters. You don't have to get super technical and really get narrow with your research. I'm not saying if you do want to do that, that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you don't have to. So if you want to do finishing position, all the best, like, by all means do so. I'm certainly not going to criticize you for doing that. There's also additional notes if you want. Not much here this week. You can look at the architect, which is another, by the way, data point. Whether you want to look at John Bredemis or Perry Maxwell, you know, you probably want to use Perry Maxwell over John, but again, it's a data point. Now, if I was giving you 100 points, I'd say maybe put 1 or 2 points into this. If it was Pete Dye, I would say put 10 points into it, because Pete Dye makes his golf course a certain way. There are other architects that are like that. I don't think Perry Maxwell is one of them. So I'd put a point, maybe 2 points out of 100 into it. That's just kind of telling you how much, how important I think that is. That kind of covers the golf course and half of the tournament information. Let me give you the last piece of the tournament information. Your strength of field, as I have it calculated right now, is 452. I believe the field is set. Matthias Schwab was the last person in. He doesn't offer anything to the strength of field points, but 452 is pretty healthy. You know, you can already see we have some names here: Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa. These are good golfers. You know, let's just pretend Colin Morikawa is within the top 20. Just for, well, I mean, I guess we have Jordan Spieth. I'm looking at the wrong number. Sorry, I'm looking at the FedEx Cup. OWGR, right here. We've got, what, 8 golfers? Sorry, 8 golfers inside the top 20. That's pretty healthy. It's a pretty good strength of field. So it's pretty challenging. Now, this is another data point. If you want, use 425 to 475, or maybe 425 to 500. Let's just err on the side of more difficult. The higher the number, the more difficult the strength of field is. I would use that as a data point. And if I was giving you 100 points, maybe put 5 towards it. I think that's fine too. So that's kind of how I feel about, you know, strength of field. The other thing to note is there's 120 golfers in the field, which means 6-6 rate should be a little easier this week. A lot of these golfers are in play, by the way. A lot of these golfers down here in the low 6K range, they're in play. You can see I have Matthias Schwab down here. I don't have a price tag for him just yet, and I don't think he's even available on the cheat sheet, but he is in the field, just so you know. Doesn't look like he really offers a lot of value. Like, he's pretty low in my sweet spot ranks. So for the time being, we'll see when I add everything in, if it goes up or not. I don't think it will. I think he'll still be like 112th ranked golfer in the field. But yeah, 120 golfers should be easier for people to get 6-6 through the cut. I would almost advocate for, if you're in GPPs, to go you're going to grab one of those 6K golfers down there all day, every day. If you want to differentiate yourself from other people, one of those 6K, well, I mean, we'll go over pass optimal and GPP winning lineups pretty soon, but that's how I would build a lineup if you're trying to take down a GPP. Cash lineups, I mean, I think it's going to be a little easier to make 6-6 through the cut this week. Now, if your cash lineup is like a league lineup, you're still going to have to find a little bit difference with other people in your league, because a lot of people probably have the same idea that you do. And that's essentially all that I have. You know, we'll talk about salaries here soon. Scotty's $800 more than Finau. That's worth consideration, because, you know, when it was just Scheffler and Finau at the Byron Nelson, Finau was your man. Or was it Finau? I can't remember who was at the Byron Nelson. I want to say it was Finau. No, it was Tyrrell Hatton. My bad. It was Tony Finau and John Rahm at the Mexico Open, where Finau or I should say where Rahm and Scheffler were over 11K, and then the next guy was in the 10K range. Now we got a few more 10K golfers to consider, so it's not quite a one-for-one comparison to those tournaments, but something to consider nonetheless. Anyways, that is all that I have for the tournament and golf course information. Let's go ahead and get to the next segment. Now, pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. We start here in 2017 at, it's always at Colonial. I forget what the tournament was called in 2017. It could have been Charles Schwab. It doesn't matter. Your optimal lineup, $49,600. That consisted of a golfer, John Rahm, $11,800, $9,700 Kevin Kisner, $7,500 Sean O'Hare, $6,900 Danny Lee, $7,000 Scott Piercy, and $6,700 Stuart Sink. So the very first year we look at, we've got two 6Ks. So keep that in mind. Now, I always advocate for a start in the one golfer in the 10K range, one golfer in the 9K range. By the way, 10K is 10K and above. So Scotty Scheffler this week being at 11,500, that would apply. So 10K, 9K, 8K, 2 7s, and then a 6. That's going to round up your 6-man lineup. That's how I think you should always start your lineups when it comes to building GPPs. And again, I'm trying to hit the optimal lineup. So if you want to hit the optimal lineup with me, I think that's where we start. In 2017, it required 2 6Ks. So how I look at it is you basically have 2 substitutions you can make from that 10-9-8, 7-7-6 approach. So we already have our 10K, so we're not making a substitution there. We already have our 9K, we're not making a substitution there. We do not have an 8K. So let's just pretend Sean O'Hare is actually our 8K that we sub down to a 7, so that means we'd have 3 7s. But, well, first of all, so we would have 3 7s. We have 1 here with Sean O'Hare. We have 2 here with Scott Piercy. One of those 7s we can also, let's just say that 8 we can come down twice to a 6K. Let's put it that way. I know that was confusing, but let's just say we subbed an 8K down to a 7 and then down to a 6. That's what we have this week. And that technically is 2 substitutions. Or you could look at it as you sub 1 7 down to another 6 to have 2 6s, and then we sub our 8 down to a 7 to get back to our 2 7s. Which I know is confusing, but either way, it still kind of follows, or it still follows the 10-9-8, 7-7-6 with 2 substitutions. Going to 2018, and by the way, when I say that, it's only to add structure to your lineup building process. It's a rule that I created because that's just what I see 90% of the time, over 90% of the time, is it still follows that. You know, what you're not going to see is 4 8Ks in a lineup, because you wouldn't be able to make those 2 substitutions to get there, to get 4 8Ks there. Sometimes you will see 4 7Ks, but you can make 2 substitutions to get to 4 7Ks. You also won't see 4 9Ks because you can't make 2 substitutions to get to 4 9Ks. Has it happened before where there's 4 9Ks? No. Has it happened before where there are 4 8Ks? Yes. One time. One time from 2017 all the way to the present day. One time has it happened. So, and that's a GPP winner, by the way. That isn't an optimal lineup. I don't think an optimal lineup has ever been an 8-8-8-8 start. I do have a spreadsheet on this just for one season. I don't think that was ever a build. So anyway, that's why I say 2 substitutions, because I don't want you to ever try to build a lineup that starts with 4 8Ks or 4 9Ks. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Anyways, moving on to the 2018. I just wanted to add that in there because I feel like I kind of leave that out every single video, why it's important to start there and why it's important to just have 2 substitutions. In 2018, your optimal lineup left $300 on the table. I forgot to mention, you know, we only left $400 on the table in 2017. We're only leaving $300 on the table in 2018. Again, optimal lineups, by the way. So we have Justin Rose at 10-6, Brooks Koepka at 9-2, Emiliano Grillo at 86, 10-9-8. There we go. We got that start. And oh, by the way, 7-7-6. Easy peasy. Like it's a cheat code to some extent. Start 10-9-8, 7-7-6. And you can kind of see there's no way you're really building another lineup. Maybe Emiliano Grillo, Louis Oosthuizen, and now we're leaving $500 on the table. You could certainly go there. That's a substitution you probably could have made. Or, you know, sub out Louis or sub from Grillo down to Louis and then Tway up to Na. Now we only leave $100 on the table. But guess what? It still starts 10-9-8, 7-7-6. No matter what, 10-9-8, 7-7-6. So moving on to the next year, 2019. Our optimal lineup this time left $3,000 on the table. Now that's impossible. We don't like doing that. But if you wanted to know what that optimal lineup started with, it was a $9,600 Tony Finau. I'm just grabbing the most expensive guy and going down. Rory Sabatini at $8,800. Isn't that wild? That's Sabatini was once $8,800. I bet you he was 9K at one point in time as well. Just wild still. So 9K, 8K. We also had another 8K with Kevin Na. So really, if you think about it, well, hold on, let me finish. 7-6-6. So I think we're making more than 2 substitutions there, because I was just about to say, well, hey, hold on. We're actually subbing a 10 down to an 8 because we have our 9K and we have one other 8K. But in my opinion, that's technically making 2 substitutions where you would be dropping 10 down to a 9 down to an 8. That's 2. But now we have 2 6Ks once again. So that's like 3 substitutions. And that's your optimal lineup, by the way. I created and left $3,000 on the table. That's impossible to do. I created a more realistic optimal. So that starts with Jordan Spieth at 10, Tony Finau at 9, 8K Kevin Na, 7K CT Pan, 7K Russell Knox, and $6,800 Andrew Putnam. So that's the 10-9-8, 7-7-6. All 6 of your golfers inside the top 10. That thing is going to take down a GPP. So we're still following the 10-9-8, 7-7-6 method. In 2020, this is the first event back from COVID, by the way. So you see all these fun colors here. That doesn't mean anything. I just wanted to add those in there because these were the last events prior to COVID. Crazy enough, right? But your optimal lineup that year, which was, I think we had a lot of good golfers in the field, left $600 on the table. And doesn't look like it started with a 10K. Started with Morikawa in the 9K range, Rose in the 9K range, and Patrick Reed in the 9K range. Almost had to eat my words there, right? When I said there've never been 4 9Ks. Well, sure, we've had 3 9Ks in the optimal lineup. And then we have a 7, a 7, a 7. So 3 9s and 3 7s. It's pretty balanced. It's like your balanced stars and scrubs. You know, where stars and scrubs might go 10, 10, 9, 6, 6, 6. This is just a 9, 9, 9, 6, or 7, 7, 7. Now, your Millie Maker lineup, by the way, used 3 9Ks as well. A 7, an 8, and a 7. That's crazy. What else do I have highlighted? I have a sum of $50,002. Where's the 2 coming from? Wonder where that came from. Doesn't matter. There we go, 50,000. Yeah, so used up all $50,000, leaving no money on the table. 3 9s, an 8, and 2 7s. Now, again, 3 9s hard to get to. Let me see. Can I build a 10 9 8 7 7 6 with all golfers inside? Oh, I don't see a single 6 inside the top 10. We go 10 9 and 7. I can grab an 8 in Woodland, maybe a $7,200 Coke Rack. I do have enough to do some sort of 6K, but I could also just do another 7. Oh, I cannot. This is $100 over. So JT Poston in 10th place, 49,900. So you could go 10.98.777. That's following the 10.98.776 approach, making one substitution from a 6 up to a 7. So it's possible. And also we had some 6K golfers down here that we could have just plugged in there. Either way, many different ways to build your optimal or your GPP winning lineup. In 2021, we left $700 on the table for your optimal lineup. That did start with a 10K golfer, 11,200 to be exact, with Jordan Spieth. We also had a 9K golfer in Jason Kokrak. No 8K golfer looks like, but we had 4 7s. I told you could do 4 7s. But that still is subbing an 8 down to a 7 and subbing a 6 up to a 7. That's how you can get 4 7s by making 2 substitutions. So that works out. That still follows the process I'm talking about. Now, your GPP winning lineup left $600 on the table, had those 3 that we talked about at the top, as well as 3 other 7s. So it was 4 7s in that one, a 10K and a 9K. I think that's very much on the table this week as well. You know, we could use Scotty Scheffler, who is the top price guy at 11,500, and go from there. And let's talk about that after I get through the next year. So 2022, our optimal also didn't leave a lot of money on the table, $100 to be exact. And it started with an 11K golfer. We've seen a lot of 11K golfers show up already. He finished second. First place guy was Sam Burns, $9,700. We actually had an $8,000 golfer in Davis Riley. Then we had 2 7K golfers, Cam Davis and Brendan Todd, and a $6,400 Scott Stallings. That left $100 on the table. That was your optimal lineup. Scored 550. Our GPP scored 499. So 50 points behind. Now, that one started with Jordan Spieth, just a different 10K golfer. Had Sam Burns, $8,400 Davis Riley, $7,000 Brendan Todd, $7,800 Harold Varner III, and $6,500 Sahith Theegala. You can see Sahith's way down there in 57th place. So the GPP winning lineup, not super sharp last year. Lots of wiggle room that you could have, built a lineup that would have taken down a GPP. And again, the GPP, the difference between the optimal and the GPP was 50 points. You didn't have to leave a lot of money on the table to hit the optimal or to build the GPP winning lineup. So keep all that in mind. I think it was 1 year, right, where there's $3,000 left on the table. Otherwise, we didn't really see anything more than $600 or $700 left on the table. So with all that being said, when we look at the salaries for this year, we've got Scotty Scheffler at $11,500. We've already seen it plenty of times. What was it, 2017? We saw $11,800 Rahm. Yeah, he wasn't the most expensive. I think Jordan Spieth was at $12,000, but still, when it came to building lineups, it was, you wanted Rahm at $11,800, but then you could put a $9,700 golfer in your lineup. So you could go expensive and still leave $400 on the table. Again, that was your optimal. That would have taken down a GPP. Easy. As we go through all the other years, we have another $11,000 golfer here with Rahm once again. Now, I think the trend we're going to see it's Rahm and Spieth, who are your expensive guys up at the top. Jordan Spieth at $10,900. Yep, there's Spieth once again. Hey, Finau, by the way, $9,600. 2020, again coming back from COVID. There we go. Our boy Bryson DeChambeau is up there. So is Justin Thomas. I bet you we had an $11,000 golfer. Yeah, so Rory was in the field. He made the cut, by the way. Wouldn't have gotten you a GPP win, but makes you feel comfortable. He made the cut. Rahm actually missed the cut at $11,000. So there is obviously still risk in rostering anybody from any salary range. But then we get in 2021 and it's Spieth at $11,200. See, we have Morikawa here at $10,500. Was Scotty Scheffler in this field by chance? I want to say he had to have been, right? Berger was 10. Justin Thomas was 11,000. Oh God, Scheffler had to have been in this field. Had to have been. He missed the cut at $9,500. Wasn't the most expensive. Probably wasn't, he wasn't at his game at this time. But 2022 is where he had his good year. Okay, so rookie, I think, on 2021. 2022. There we go. Scheffler up at top. He had his Masters win. He had his match play win. $11,200. Finished second. So the moral of the story is don't be afraid of playing an 11K golfer. Don't be afraid of playing a 10K golfer named Jordan Spieth. By the way, Jordan Spieth, not even a 10K golfer. Like, you could probably start Scheffler and Spieth. What was that? 2017, we had an 11.8 and a 97. Let's see if we find any similarities here. Now, Rahm hadn't played. Course history last year wasn't good. Didn't play the week before, so not really. But our $9,700 golfer had a top 10 the year before. Hey, by the way, Spieth was up here, had won the year before, so he had a top 5 finish, being 11,000 and above. Let's use that. So this will be our Scotty Scheffler for this year. Now let's see. I believe this is exactly where Spieth is going to be, right? Has to be. Same stat profile. Pretty damn close. Top 10, recent form coming into the event. 30th is his average finishing position. Kevin Kisner is as recent form average was 39.4. 10th place finish. Course history 33.3. I think Spieth is way better than that, right? Yeah, 8.5. So if you wanted to start Scheffler and Spieth, be my guest. That seems like a good starting lineup. I know I will be at least playing one lineup with Scheffler and Spieth in it. That seems pretty smart. So, I don't know. There's a lot of good golfers here in the 10K range and above. I don't mind playing any of these guys when it comes to the 9K range. I also don't mind playing most of these guys. Probably just going to stay away from Chris Kirk. That's a pretty expensive price tag. But I guess when we look at everyone below Chris Kirk, if we're going to compare a 1-for-1, like if we're doing a 1v1, I should say, are we feeling more confident than Kirk or Henley, McCarthy, maybe Cam Davis? Like I like Cam Davis this week, but it's a $500 price dip, which is good. I mean, that's going to make Cam Davis a little bit more appealing. But some of these other guys doing a 1v1 versus Kirk, it's a toss-up. It would be a coin flip, in my opinion. So, I don't know. When it comes to price tags, I think it's fine. It's hard to stomach. Let's just be real. That's hard to stomach that price. These guys up here, no problem. No problem with that. Even Siwoo came at $9,000. Kind of like that. It's a good price tag for Siwoo. Yes. I think that's all I'll cover for the past optimal and GPP winning lineups. I will also cover salaries when it comes to the bucket system. So we'll leave this segment of the video alone and move on to the next one, which is going to be a review of the PGA Championship. Brooks Koepka is your winner at the PGA Championship. It was terrible weather for most of the time. He was the one that was able to endure. I think Scotty Scheffler could have won it. I kind of feel like the wet ground and his footwork do not go hand in hand. That'll be interesting to see going forward. I don't know if I've ever noticed that before, but I think it's a narrative worth keeping an eye on. But yeah, Brooks Koepka wins it by 2 shots. Live guy. The golf is kind of in a good place when it comes to drama. I enjoy where it's at in all honesty. I'm not really going to talk mostly about results. Hovland had a good chance to win. I'm more or less wanting to review the DFS side of this, show you how well the sweet spot process did. If you had followed me, what could have been, or maybe what couldn't have been. But I wanted to show you the results either way. What I typically like to do is talk about the bucket system, how well the buckets did. How I measure that is I'm looking at all the top 10 golfers, because in the preview video, by the way, let me just start with the preview video. The preview video, I project how many golfers from each of these buckets. So this is one bucket last year, 1. Here's bucket 2 last year, 2. Each one of these buckets, I go through projections, and you can see that here with the columns that I highlighted, column G and column H. And you can't really see the G, but you can see the H. I'm projecting, and I do this every single week, how many golfers I think come out of the top 10 from each of these buckets. So to measure how successful the buckets did, I basically look at the top 10 of the leaderboard for that year. the PGA Championship just happened. There were 3 golfers that finished inside the top 10 for this last year 1 bucket. That alone fits inside the projections that I have because we round down with the minimum projection, we round up with the maximum projection. So how it reads is it's 1 to 4 golfers from this bucket I think are going to be inside the top 10. Sure enough, we had 3. Success right away. Now there is a caveat. There were zero golfers in the optimal lineup. That's not great because the optimal lineup is what we're trying to hit. But I'm still giving it a success because we did have 3 top 10s. I projected it correctly. And using that information, I'll get to the sweet spot optimal. You could find 2 of those guys. You could use 2 of those guys in your sweet spot optimal. Now, we'll see if that actually beat the GPP winning lineup or not, the Millie Maker, by the way. And if it did, that means the bucket system was 100% correct. We'll see if the sweet spot process was correct by looking at, well, the sweet spot process will also be tied into the sweet spot optimal. That includes the marquee tee times, if you didn't already know. But to get back on track here, it's all about looking at my projections, measuring how many top 10s for the week we had, as well as how many optimal lineup guys there were. So let's say the amount of golfers inside the top 10 fall outside of the ranges that I have for a bucket. So this says 1 to 4. Well, I can already show you there's 1 N. That means it didn't hit. So when we look at last year bucket 3, I was projecting 0 to 2 to be inside the top 10. Darn, I missed. There were 3. Missed by 1. But hold on, I actually have a fail-safe if optimal lineup, if there were optimal lineup golfers that fit within that projection. I don't know how to word it, but let's just say this was 2, then the bucket would be successful. So I first look at top 10s for that week, and if that falls outside the projection, I look at optimal lineup golfers from the bucket. And if those fit in the projection, this bucket is successful. So you can see 1 N already. Well, there was a second one. So for the 2023 PGA Championship, there were 34 out of 36 buckets that were correct. That's how this reads. You can see all the Ys, you can see all the projections over here, and then you can see all of the results right here. Now, 34 to 36 would mean following the sweet spot process, you're not going to hit the optimal lineup. Just that's how it's going to go because otherwise all the projections would have been correct. However, your GPP winning score isn't always it rarely is the optimal lineup. So could we have built a lineup that followed the sweet spot process in order to take down a GPP? Well, let's review the GPP winning lineup versus the optimal. And the sweet spot optimal. The optimal lineup left a lot of money on the table. $2,200 to be exact. And it had Brooks at $10,100, Victor Hovland at $9,100, 3 7Ks on Cam Davis, Bryson DeChambeau, and Kurt Kitayama, and a $6,700 Sepp Straka. Now that all together scored 515 points. So again, $2,200 left on the table, scored 515. Pretty hard to do. Like I wouldn't ever advocate to leave that much money on the table. This is the Millie Maker, not the $5. Gotta make sure I put that right. Your Millie Maker lineup scored 474 points and it left $300 on the table. That consisted of Brooks and Hovland, like in the optimal. It also consisted of Cam Davis and Bryson DeChambeau, also in the optimal. But then we had to go down here to Tommy Fleetwood and Keegan Bradley. It's a great lineup. It is following your 10-9-8 and then has 3 7s. So pretty solid. And, you know, when you start with Brooks, obviously he's the guy who won. At 10,100, you kind of have a little bit of flexibility. So you don't have to do the 10-9-8, 7-7-6. But also, guy didn't win. I mean, he didn't hit the optimal lineup. Again, he scored 474 points. The optimal scored 515. So there's about 40 points between the two. Now, drum roll to see if the sweet spot optimal beat the Millie Maker. Again, this is following the whole sweet spot process, the buckets and everything. Sweet spot process scored 488 points. Or at least you could have built a lineup that scored 488 following the sweet spot process to a T. meaning that beat the Millie Maker by 14 points. You left $0 on the table, and guess what? You went 10,100 in Brooks Koepka, $9,100 in Victor Hovland. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this completely wrong. That was actually, you started with $10,700 Rory McIlroy. My apologies. It's every golfer here highlighted in green. $10,000, $700, or $10,700 Rory McIlroy, $10,100 Brooks Koepka. Very rarely do you start with two 10Ks, but guess what? You sub up a 9 to a 10. That fits the sweet spot process. Looks like we don't have an 8, so we sub an 8 down to a 7. So we're missing a 9 and an 8K golfer, but we have 3 7s and a 6. That was your sweet spot optimal. And of course, that means in order for it to, to be a success, the marquee tee times had to come into play. And of course, me just showing you that it was 100% correct. The sweet spot process would have taken down a GPP. It was not going to take down an optimal lineup, but it did take down a GPP. Or would have. So let me highlight all the golfers that were in the marquee tee times. It's all the golfers here by 3. Remember, this is a rank order based off of, the golfers in each group. When you combine the sweet spot ranks for all 3 golfers, which ones were the best? And I have this ranked top to bottom. Group 1 had Cam Smith, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Neither one of them were in the optimal lineup. Cam Smith finished inside the top 10, by the way, so that was a good sign. Group 2, Finau, Homa, and Adam Scott. Adam Scott was rolling for a while. I think after round 1, he shot at 68. He was up there in the leaderboard. It looked good. Then he had a miserable Friday and a miserable Saturday. He melted in the rain. Let's just put it that way. We get to the group 3, and that's where we get our first golfer in the sweet spot optimal. That was Rory McIlroy. We also get Brooks Koepka down here in the 8th group. Now, personally, I'm just looking at optimal lineups. Brooks and Hovland were in your marquee tee times. The rules at the beginning of the week is you want to just select 2 to 4 golfers or groups within the marquee tee times. There's a total of 9. So you select 2 to 4, and you only select 1 golfer from each of them. Because very rarely do you have golfers that are paired up together that are in the optimal lineup. Now, here's one crazy thing to look at. Scheffler, by the way, finished 2nd. Right behind Brooks Koepka. There was a possibility that, I think if Scheffler won and Brooks was 2nd, it is possible that was your optimal lineup. It would have started with those guys. So it was really close, but technically it was not an optimal lineup, so therefore the rule still applies and it was successful. Either way, we're still following the sweet spot process, so we're only grabbing Brooks and we're only grabbing Rory. And if you started with those 2 golfers, you're doing good, or at least that was part of the sweet spot optimal. So hopefully going forward, that gives you more confidence in the bucket system as well as the sweet spot process as a whole to find golfers to build your lineups around. Remember, in the strategy videos, when I go over marquee tee times, it's all about finding 2 to 4 golfers you're going to anchor your lineups around. That's obviously what we could have done here at the PGA Championship pretty easily, but your GPP winner had 3 golfers that were in the marquee tee times. I mean, it'd be sweet if it was a sweet spot follower. That'd have been great, because it looks like it could have been 10K, 9K, 8K, all in the marquee tee times. It just seems close. Anyways, that wraps up the review for the PGA Championship. I just want to show you guys how well the sweet spot process did. Also giving you a little bit of a review of the PGA Championship. 100% successful, or 100% success rate. So all things good. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the bucket system for the Charles Schwab Challenge. When it comes to the bucket system, if you want to follow along with me, what I would suggest to do, check the link of the video. That'll get you to the cheat sheet. And then on the cheat sheet, you can go down to the bucket system. From here, go ahead, put up the filter called the bucket system on, obviously, the bucket system. And then you can follow along with me while I go through this. We're going to go bucket by bucket, go over each of the each of the projections of golfers I think are going to be inside the top 10 from each bucket. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But I'm going to go ahead and hide some of these columns from my sheet. That way it doesn't confuse you. Go ahead and hide up to here. I don't want to clear them. Good thing there's a back button. Okay, so what I would suggest doing, go right into the stat filter, clear everything out, and we're going to look at last year buckets. When it comes to last year buckets for the Charles Schwab Challenge, what this is really truly saying, does a finish here from last year matter? And if so, you know, does it matter if they missed the cut? Does it matter if they got a top 20? This is what these buckets will tell us what we need to know. So when it comes to the last year one bucket, which are golfers who top 20 this event the year before, we have a 100% frequency rate of finishing inside the top 10. That's huge. That's always good to know. We have a minimum of a 1 and a max of 5. So we've had up to 5 golfers from this bucket inside the top 10 one of the years. At least one of the years. Could be more, but at least one. Now, the success rate isn't super high. 12% isn't super high, but I think we've had a lot of years. Actually, no, 12% seems pretty low. If I'm being honest, like sometimes we see 20%, but we have our projection higher. Now, partly that might have to do with the strength of field points that go towards it. 35% of the strength of field points are going towards this bucket, meaning there's some good golfers in here. I think Sky Scheffler's in here. Jordan Spieth is in here. We can look at some of these golfers, but the projection is 1 to 3. Now, one way to kind of like check the numbers, like try to find a more conservative number is looking at this column here. I have it on my sheet. You're not going to have it on yours. But as long as this is still around the range that this max projection is, all things are the same. So 1 to 3 is what I project to be inside the top 10. Let's take a look at our last year one golfers. Again, if you're following along with me, go to the dream sheet, put a filter on there. And what we're going to do is go to the last year filter, one that says LY, clear that out and select one, last year one. It's a limited group, limited bucket. We only have 14 golfers in it. The projections 1 to 3 are going to be inside the top 10. Now you just watched, if you're watching the preview video, you just watched me go over the review of the PGA Championship. I'm sure if you follow along with me long enough, you've seen this enough where every single week that we review the bucket system, it's damn near 100% correct every single time. So when I tell you there's 1 to 3 golfers from this bucket that will finish inside the top 10, again, it's a projection, can't be definitive and say will, but I'm just going to call it as I see it. 1 out of 3 of these guys are going to finish inside the top 10. You're going to want to start here. Anchor your lineups around one of these guys. Don't try to get cute. It's probably going to be Scheffler, Finau, or Spieth. And it might be a combination of 2 of them that finish inside the top 10. Now, can you roster 2 of those guys? Maybe not. Maybe not. That's always a piece that we have to remember and consider when building our lineups. Can we build a lineup with 2 to 3 of these guys? Well, if it's Scheffler and Finau, no, you can't. But I would argue even if you start with Scheffler, you could still get to Spieth and build a lineup from there that's probably going to be pretty competitive. And we'll see what it does with the buckets or with the optimizer when I build lineups to see how good of a lineup we can build with a Scheffler Spieth start. But I think you could make the argument that if you do start Scheffler, don't put Finau or Spieth in your lineup. Go lower than that. And I would almost make the argument, if you're going to go Scheffler, the first golfer I see that I want to pair Scheffler up with would be Cam Davis. Now that's starting 11K going down to 8K, which I think is fine. I think that's fine. Maybe you're not okay with that. Maybe you want to go Jordan Spieth, Cam Davis. I think that's fine as well. I mean, we just went over the pass optimal and GPP, the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. Weird. Had a little brain skip there. We just went over that and found out a lot of 11K golfers finish inside the top 10 as well as top 5 and have been in the optimal lineup, I think, a majority of the time. If I can remember, I have a really bad short-term memory, but I think what I remember correctly is at least 2 out of 5 years, if not 3 out of 5 years, we saw an 11K golfer inside the top 5. So I'm okay with playing Scheffler. This will be his 3rd week in a row, by the way, which also I don't think is going to be that intensive on him. He's young, 26 years old. I think he's going to be just fine. But if you wanted to play that narrative, you got more golfers to choose from. Now, the rule is don't go over 3. Just don't. I don't think there's a purpose for it or a reason. And again, when we reviewed the PGA Championship, I showed you the sweet spot process, which follows the bucket rules very, very strictly. We beat a GPP. We beat the Millie Maker lineup by a decent amount. I mean, 14 points, say whatever you want, but it was a low-scoring DraftKings tournament. 515 was the optimal lineup. We've seen 780 and 800 points being the optimal lineup in other tournaments. 700, like 650 to 700 is probably going to be average, but this was 515, low 500. And your GPP winning, the Millie Maker, scored 474, something like that. The Sweet Spot Optimal scored 488. So I think following the Sweet Spot process, don't go over 3. Even if you like 4 of these guys, just don't put them together. It's a simple rule, it's simple to follow. Just don't do it. Let's move on. I don't want to spend a lot of time on some of these buckets, but the ones that are important, I want to spend the most time on. That makes sense. Last year 2s. The projection that you see on the screen is 1 to 3. You're going to see that on the cheat sheet. What you're not going to see is this max projection over here is less than 2. Remember, I always round up with max projections. So the fact that this isn't over 2, this to me automatically brings the minimum here down to 0. Although it says 1, I'm dropping it down to 0, but I am keeping this max projection of 3. So really, this bucket is 0 to 3. Let's take a look at the golfers here. And again, if you're following along with me, you just go into the last year bucket, make sure everything's deselected, and then just only select 2. So here's where I would say, okay, so yes, the projection's 0 to 3, but look at who's at the top. You got Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Tommy Fleetwood, and we'll just stop there. I like Denny McCarthy, but I'm not going to put him in the same conversation as those other 4 golfers. You have those 4, the likelihood of one of those not finishing inside the top 10, pretty low. However, we could, I think Victor Hovland is the choice to make here, but we could poke holes in Colin Morikawa's game. We could poke holes in Max Homa's game. And during the course, kind of the course preview that I had, one of the holes, just one, like I'm cherry picking here, one of the holes doesn't suit Tommy Fleetwood. That's the first hole, the par 5. Doesn't suit Tommy Fleetwood. It'd be interesting to see if he gets an eagle out of it, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I see it. But that would be the only hole that I would really poke in Tommy Fleetwood's game. I do like Tommy Fleetwood here. And then the rest of the guys are interesting to consider. I think there are some decent 7K plays. I like them all, honestly. I like Kitayama. I like Smalley. I like Rogers. I don't mind Beau Hosler. He's from Texas. Ryan Palmer. I think I'll play. My dummy lineup, by the way, now that I think of it, has Victor Hovland in it, Kurt Kitayama, and Ryan Palmer. And I mean, the projection's 0 to 3, but seeing that, I might change my Kitayama to someone else. I do like Victor Hovland, though. I think that's where I want to start most of my lineups is Victor Hovland. I do like Scotty Scheffler, and everything we just saw in the last year 1 bucket kind of is now leaning me towards Scotty Scheffler. Anyways, 0 to 3 to this bucket I think is pretty solid. I mean, it gives me a pretty wide range of success, so that might be kind of off-putting. But I do like at least one of these guys being inside the top 10. But not more than 3. I don't think there will be more than 3. So again, if you're building lineups, again, it's why I love the bucket system. It's giving you rules. Don't go over 3. You can I can see this from each one of you. I can see you like more than 3 guys on the screen. Don't play more than 3. Find the 3 that you want to anchor your lineups around, or put them in a player pool, and that's it. Don't play anyone else. So that's our last year 2s. Let's take a look. What else do we need to see? Last year 3, by the way, 0 to 2 is your projection there. Remember, that is all. There has to be a 2-point buffer between the minimum and the maximum always. So because the minimum is 0, that automatically means the max is 2. Same applies for the last year 4s. So when you're looking at this on the spreadsheet, you know what to look for. The next 2 buckets, well, actually, no. The next bucket is the last year 5. These are golfers who missed the cut last year. The projection's 1 to 3. However, my conservative projection over here isn't over 2. It's 1.99, really close to 2. But that means this is also a 0 out of 3 bucket, which is really interesting. Let's take a look at who our missed cut golfers are from last year. Any notables? Justin Rose, Tom Hoagie, Min-Woo Lee, K.H. Lee, Brian Harmon, Steven Yeager, and Taylor Moore, all 8K and above. The fact this is a 0 to 3 bucket, I like a lot. There are some really good names, even lower than that. Because, like, I don't mind playing a Brian Harmon, no issue there. I also don't mind playing a Min-Woo Lee, a Justin Rose. I really like Justin Rose this week, by the way. So I don't mind playing him. Hayden Buckley seems like a good play as well. Maverick McNeely, I think, is on the mend. I think he's been playing a little bit better. I wouldn't mind going to someone like him. We've got a lot of good 6K golfers to pick from. I should say a lot of good 6Ks, but good names nonetheless. Adam Schenk, sure. Nate Lashley, by the way, I don't know why I didn't highlight him. Nate Lashley, solid 6K player. Adam Schenk, solid 6K player. I don't mind Higo. I don't mind Streelman. Probably stay away from Ryder. The rule is you play Patton Kizzire in Texas, I think. So no issue playing Patton Kizzire. Piercy, Sig, those are guys I don't mind putting like 1 or 2 in 1 or 2 lineups. That's probably it. Kramer Hickok, by the way, University of Texas guy. If you want to do the Texas narrative, remember we covered this in the course information. Data points. Maybe you look at all the Texas guys playing in Texas, and if their average finishing position is lower than their baseline, maybe give them a little bit of a boost. So maybe that's Hickok. I have not done that research, so I'm not telling you that's what I see. If you have access to that research, check it out. And if it works out, then play them. If not, then don't. You know, I think Hickok is like a borderline guy to play. He's the stone min at 6K. He's going to allow you to do some things with some lineups. And being a Texas guy, I don't think it's terrible. So that's your last year 5s. And of course, if we remember correctly, last year 6s would be 1 to 3 as your projection. Some good names here. These are golfers who did not play last year. This includes golfers who have 0 course history, by the way. Which you can see a lot of these guys here have no course history. But I'll leave that up to you who you think would be the right plays. Siwoo Kim, I don't mind. Russell Henley, I think, is a good course fit here. Benny Ann, no issues there. Harris English. I like this price tag for Harris English a lot. $7,800. Maybe that's who I'll switch from Kitayama. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Kitayama down to Harris English. That would make the most sense. So anyways, 1 to 3 from this bucket. And that wraps up your last year buckets. So we move on to the next ones. Now, again, if you're following along with me, all you'd want to do to get to the last week buckets, clear everything out and select last week. That way we get to these projections and you can follow along, follow along with me on the cheat sheet just by going to the link in the description, finding that sheet, then putting this filter on, the bucket system filter. This is really interesting when it comes to projections. If we look at the top 2 and the bottom 2, they're about the same. They're almost mirror images of each other. 1 to 3, and then look at this over here. So we're basically trying to figure out, does it matter playing at the PGA Championship last week? Or just the week before this event, any given year? Doesn't matter if it's a PGA Championship before it or any other event. We're looking at all the success rates. PGA Championship has a little bit more importance stamped with it than other events that happened before the Charles Schwab. Like if I go to 2019, we had the PGA Championship. 2018 was the Byron Nelson. 2017 was the Byron Nelson. 2016 was the Byron Nelson. 2015 was the Wells Fargo Championship. 2014 was the Byron Nelson. And 2013 was the Byron Nelson. So I guess what we could do, yeah, sure, why don't we do this? Okay. The PGA Championship started in 2019, being the tournament right before the Charles Schwab Challenge. Now, 2020, that was its own thing too, by the way. I won't even have last week's stats for that because there were no last week events. So we want to look at 2019, 2021, and 2022. We want to be very specific with this because does the Byron Nelson equate? Like, is it the same significance as the PGA Championship? Of course it's not. Now, here's one thing I will note first before we even get into that. If you want to use all the data for every single week that led into the Charles Schwab Challenge, or whatever the tournament was called at the Colonial Country Club, if you want to, everything you see on the screen right now is exactly what you want to look at. So our projections are very conservative. 1 to 3 last week ones. Those are your top 20 finishes at the PGA Championship. 1 to 3 last week twos. This is very close right here. Let me see if I... Oh, it's actually below 2, technically. So, okay, that's great. Last week ones. 1 to 3 is your projection. Last week fives. Guys who missed the cut last week, by the way, in a good bucket to select from 1 to 3. We also actually technically have 1 to 3 last week twos, which is that 20 to 40 range, as well as golfers who did not play at the PGA Championship. That's also 1 to 3 when it comes to these projections. But when we bring into the conservative projection, these drop below 2, meaning the mins, the actual projection for these buckets, you know, we're looking at this one and this one are 0 to 3. Just like we did with the last year buckets. However, let's go ahead, let's dig a little bit deeper and see what we can find with the buckets. So here's where the engine occurs. This is what's being pulled on that little summary sheet that I have for you. The bucket system comes from here. So we're going to be looking at the last week bucket right here, and we want to look at 2019 and forward. You can see in 2020, there were, I don't have buckets for. Like, there's no point in looking at whatever happened the week before. There was no event the week before in 2020. That was coming back from COVID. Charles Schwab Challenge was the first event on the schedule. Everything else, though, is the PGA Championship. PGA Championship was the week before. So 1, 1, 3. That means 100% of golfers who finished, I should say 100% of golf. I'm sorry. We have 100% frequency of at least one golfer who finished inside the top 20 the week before at the PGA Championship, mind you, finishing inside the top 10 of the Charles Schwab Challenge. That's how this reads. At least one every single year. But we did have 3 in 2022. So if we go back to the dream sheet, again, if you're following with me on the cheat sheet, you just go to the dream sheet portion of it. Make sure we have no other filters on. Let's go ahead and clear out the last week buckets and just select one. So remember, we have at least one golfer every single year that the PGA Championship has preceded the Charles Schwab Challenge of producing a top 10 finisher at the Charles Schwab Challenge. And if I didn't already say this, short-term memory, sometimes as streamers we black out when we talk. Golfers who top 20 at the PGA Championship. That's what we're talking about. At least one of them has finished inside the top 10 of the Charles Schwab Challenge every year that the PGA Tour or the PGA Championship has preceded this event. So, take your pick. We have Scheffler, Hovland, Rose, Fleetwood, Davis, Minwoo Lee, Kitayama, Eric Cole, Sepp Straka, and Michael Block. We're not playing Michael Block. Just don't do it. Great story, heartwarming story. Don't play him. Just don't play him. You'll thank me later. The rest of these guys, though, very much in play. And I really don't care which one you choose. You just have to make a choice. Out of the 9 golfers you see, I do think we'll see at least one. I mean, the projections are telling us it's 1 to 3 from this bucket. 1 to 3 inside the top 10. So if you wanted to start Scotty Scheffler, Justin Rose, Cam Davis, which I think is it's a beautiful start. Start there. You have your 3 max golfers that you can put in that might hit the optimal lineup. That's the projection, finish inside the top 10. Now, if you don't like that, if that's a little too close to the max, then you just take one of these guys out. I already said starting with Scotty and Cam Davis seems like a pretty good plan. So that wouldn't be terrible. Also, if you want to start Hovland, that seems like a good idea too. Kind of really liking the Scotty, Rose, Cam Davis start though. But that would be your max projection for this bucket. So keep that in mind. The other one that was 1 to 3 are golfers who missed the cut last week. There were 27 of them. Why don't we go ahead and talk about those? I'm not going to talk about the rest of them. Just remember last week 2s, your projection 0 to 3. Last week 6s, your projection also 0 to 3. Maybe you toy around with... Actually, hold the thought. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at last week 2s. I think that's going to be important because this is your 20 to 40 finish. I'm sure we're going to see some good golfers in this bucket. Yeah. Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, Chris Kirk, Denny McCarthy, KH Lee. Those are all your AK and above golfers. Remember the projection's 0 to 3. It's a little... Actually, why don't we go ahead and go back to the buckets too to see... Okay. So we had 4 in 2022 that finished inside the top 10 here. 3 inside... 3 in 2021 that finished inside the top 10, and then 0 in 2019. So that's interesting. So it's not a for sure thing. And again, our projection is 0 to 3. However, looking at the golfers in this bucket, I think we're going to get at least 1. And I wouldn't go more than 2. I'm really not feeling more than 2. So I think 1 is fine. When I build the optimizer for this week, I'll put the projection 0 to 3. For mine though, the copy that I'm gonna make for myself, I'm gonna put 0 to 2. I don't want to toy around with 3 of them, and if there ends up being 3 or more, so be it. That's fine. But yeah, it's good that we looked at this bucket. It's an important one to look at. Now the last one, golfers who did not play. Yeah. We have 7K golfers and above. Everyone else is 6K and below. So do with that as you will. 1 to 3 is a projection here. Yeah, I'd also stick around 1 or 2. I wouldn't go to 3. But it might be your glue. It might help you build lineups. So actually, let's put it a different way. I think if you grab 3 golfers from this bucket, you got to put a rule in there that 2 of them have to be 6K golfers, and then 1 of them has to be one of these 7K golfers. You do not put 3 6K golfers in your lineup. You just don't do it. Don't do it. Also, these 7K golfers are a little suspect to double up and put in your lineups. I guess I don't mind it. Yeah, I mean, I can make the argument of doing like S.H. Kim or Byung-Hun An. Like, you could actually put those 2 together, or you could maybe go like Benny Ann, Norman, or Vincent Norman, or even Will Gordon. I like Will Gordon, so I don't mind, you know, maybe starting this way. And then if you also wanted to grab a 6K golfer, Nate Lashley, Ben Martin, whatever, whoever it is, I think that's how you can get to 3. So, but I don't think you do 3 6Ks. And I also don't think you do 3 7Ks. Just the numbers aren't in your favor. The odds are not in your favor. So that covers your last week bucket. The next one I want to look at are the course history buckets. So this really is since 2013, looking at every single top 10 finish. Does course history matter? And I have them in ranges 0 to 20. 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to 80, 80 plus, and did not play. Like, just have not played. First time seeing the course. I said 0 to 20, I mean 1 to 20. I don't want to confuse anybody. It's, you know, a win or up to 20th place. In these buckets, believe it or not, we actually have a 100% frequency rate. when it comes to course history ones, having really, really good course history. 100% frequency rate. Now, I used to use that. I used to use these min-maxes as rules, like you want at least one and no more than two, until I realized, you know, I should probably look at how many golfers are in the bucket this year versus what we see on average, which we have less than 5. I also like to look at the strength of field points. That's what actually goes into the projections. So this read is actually 0 to 2, but for all those superstitious people out there, 100% frequency rate, which means at least one of these guys has been inside the top 10 every single year. If we want to take a look at those guys, again, you go to the dream sheet from the cheat sheet. Again, link in the description. Make sure you clear out all the filters. And by clearing out all the filters, that means you select everything or you remove the conditionals that you have. So we'll do that, and then you go in here to the course history bucket, you clear all of those ones out, and you select one. So we have 4 golfers: Tony Finau, Collin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and Davis Riley. The projection is 0 to 2 technically. I wouldn't select more than one. I don't mind starting with Tony Finau. I don't mind starting with Morikawa. I don't mind starting with Spieth. And I also don't mind putting Davis Riley in my lineups as like a glue piece. I always think of 7K golfers as glue. They hold up our 10K golfers with our 6K golfers. So I don't mind, you know, playing someone like Davis Riley. However, if I'm going to select one, it's most likely not going to be him unless I start my lineups with Scheffler or Hovland. I think that's the only way I get to Davis Riley. Otherwise, I'm not playing Davis Riley with any of these guys here. The projection technically is 0 to 2, so you could. But I've seen it enough times. I'm going to play the numbers. I'm going to play the odds. I'm not going to. Just one of these guys. And quite frankly, other than Spieth, the other two weren't really in my... I wasn't really thinking about starting my lineups there anyways. So, it's fine. Let's take a look at the other projections. So it's pretty even, actually. Course history 4 through 6, the projections are 0 to 2. I don't really care to look at those ones. We'll just keep our eyes on course history 2 and 3. But just remember, any of the other buckets, course history 4, 5, and 6, you want a max of 2. Just keep that in mind. So the next one we're going to look at, course history 2s. 1 to 3 is the projection. Again, you can see that here. 100% frequency rate. We've seen at least once every year, up to 7 times. 7 golfers have been inside the top 10 from this bucket in 1 year. So if we take a look at our course history 2s, just go back in that course history bucket, filter, and go to 2. Remember, it's 1 to 3. And very interesting, because I really like Cam Davis. I know a lot of people do this week. I also really like Victor Hovland. The projection's 1 to 3. I have no issue starting with those two. And in fact, I also have no issue starting with Rose as well. This is the second time that I'd hit the limit of 3, which kind of scares me in a way, but I'm also okay with it as well. I'm really liking either starting, like, I want to start with a 10K golfer, whether that's Scheffler, whether that's Hovland. It's probably just those two. And then I want a 9K golfer in my lineup. And I really like Rose and Fleetwood. I also really like Cam Davis, so going 10-9-8, 10-9-8, starting there seems kind of simple this week for me. And that's probably where I'm going to be building a lot of my lineups that way. I think that's totally fine. We'll see how it goes, though, when it comes to building lineups. It might be impossible. It might be absolutely perfect. Who knows? But, again, the projection's 1 to 3 from this bucket. Go to the next one, course history 3s. Our projection is 1 to 4. And that matches also with our max projections here. 100% frequency rate. I think finding a golfer from this bucket, I wouldn't say it's going to be easy, but I think we're going to have at least one from here. And, I mean, Scotty Scheffler's right at the top. It's pretty easy to start there. We also have Max Homa. I'll play one lineup with Max Homa in it. That's it. Maybe I'll put 1 to 4, 1 to 5 lineups because I like to kind of mix my 10Ks with 9Ks. You know, we'll see how it goes. But that's about as much Max Homa exposure I'm going to have. Sung J.M., I guess I don't really mind. He's fourth in my model, which we'll talk about tomorrow, but it's not terrible. And you could start Scotty and then Sung J. You could. Again, this projection here is 1 to 4. Henley seems like a fun play. Hoagie seems like a fun, or I should say a good play. I like Harris English a lot. Again, it's up to 4. I don't mind starting there, getting 4. Outside of that, yeah, mix and match. I think that's fine. 1 to 4. I let the optimizer do all the work for me. And I obviously anchor my lineups with certain golfers. Most likely going to be anchoring them with Scotty. But I like golfers from the other buckets. Remember Rose, remember Fleetwood, Cam Davis. Those are guys I wouldn't mind starting with there. And then maybe the optimizer selects 1 or 2 guys outside of Scotty here. I think that'd be fine. So that wraps up the course history buckets. Again, course history 4, 5, and 6. That's on you guys. Check out the cheat sheet. Remember the projections are 0 to 2. You want to select somewhere between 0 to 2 golfers there, if you can. And then recent form buckets, we'll go here. We've got 2 more to go after this, salaries and strokes gained buckets. These are the core 4 though. Last year, last week, course history, and now recent form. So does having really good recent form coming into this tournament matter? Recent form 1 means you have an average finishing position inside the top 20 over the last 7 weeks. And I shouldn't even say it that way. Your average finishing position is 20th place or better over the last 7 weeks. So with that, projections technically 1 to 2, but with the sweet spot rules, it's 0 to 2. We have 6 golfers in that bucket, by the way, where we normally see around 4. I think I have a good idea who that is. So again, these are your recent form buckets. Go to recent form 1. Scotty Scheffler, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Denny McCarthy, Vincent Norman, and Michael Block. I'm not playing Michael Block. The projection's 0 to 2. I gave you 3 golfers that I liked. I liked Scheffler, Rose, and Fleetwood. So if you already had it in your head that you wanted to start Scheffler, Rose, Fleetwood, don't do it. Now, to me, it's really a choice between Rose or Fleetwood. I think, I like Scotty, but if I was being a contrarian in my brain, I could skip past Scheffler and make sure I have 100% exposure to either Justin Rose or Tommy Fleetwood as just one guy in my lineups. And then maybe I just sprinkle in, McCarthy or Norman in some of the other ones. Again, I'm not doing Michael Block. Again, wonderful story last week, just not putting him in my lineups. But yeah, if you're not doing Scheffler, I think the play here is load up on Rose and Fleetwood. I don't think there's 100% frequency rate here. 66.67%. Never see more than 1 in the optimal lineup from this bucket, so that might be something worth consideration, by the way. I guess I don't know. 0 to 2 is fine. I'm definitely just doing I'm doing 1, I think, for sure. Because I like Scheffler, I like Rose, and I like Fleetwood. But usually the buckets give you a warning. When you see 0 to 2, it means, hey, not a strong bucket to consider. Or not so much a strong bucket to consider, but more so like, be careful. Okay, moving on to the next one. Recent form 2s. This is where a high projection is. It's 1 to 4. That is what our bucket projection is. And taking a look. Recent form 2s, again, projections 1 to 4. Finau, Hovland, Spieth, Sung J.M., Chris Kirk. Those are all your guys 9K and above. We do have a bunch of 8K golfers, so the projection of 1 to 4 seems pretty fitting. Lots of 8K and above golfers. definitely one of them, one of those guys from 8K and above will be inside the top 10. I'm not sure exactly who that'll be. I think, oh man, there's a lot of good choices, honestly. I like Jordan Spieth. I also like Victor Hovland. I don't mind starting there. You know, the last bucket we were looking at, the recent form ones, well, maybe we don't go Scheffler. Maybe we start Hovland and then go to Rose, or Hovland Fleetwood. Also really like Cam Davis. I might have already figured out my lineups. I mean, my dummy lineup already has these guys in them, and I didn't even look at the bucket system. So last time that happened, scored a pretty healthy amount of points. I didn't win the GPP with that lineup, but it's a good starting point. Good, fun choices, man. I enjoy looking at the bucket system just because of this. The next projection is the exact same, by the way. Despite you seeing 2 to 4, this conservative projection over here is less than 3. So that rounds up to 3, meaning the minimum drops down to 1. You want a 2-point buffer. I always look at this to drop my minimum down. You want a 2-point buffer, so that 2.93 goes up to 3. The min automatically becomes 1. But instead of using this as my actual max projection, I'm using this, which is 4. So again, this is a 1 to 4 projection for recent form 3s. And it starts with Morikawa, Homa. You've got Burns and Siwoo. Those are your only 9K and above golfers, by the way. And actually, Hoagie is the only 8K golfer from this bucket. Most of these are your 7K golfers, which if I'm writing a narrative in my head, this is where we find our 7K golfers. So I just, more and more of me is telling, or more, the more I look at this, the more I'm getting really strong Victor Hovland, Cam Davis, Rose or Fleetwood starts, and then mixing in some of these 7Ks here. I think that's a beautiful way to start. We'll see what the optimizer tells us. I mean, Harris English seems like a really good play now. Like, I'm thinking of it for myself when it comes to what I know what my dummy lineup is versus what I'm seeing with the buckets and all the players. Really liking, again, it's a narrative written in my head. I'm producing it myself. I'm trying to write the story as I see it. Who knows if it's going to actually happen. Brendan Todd, by the way, a golfer that a lot of people are liking this week, is in this bucket. He's ranked really well, or he's rated really well in my model. I like him too. So I also wouldn't mind Brendan Todd. Remember, this is a 1 to 4 projection, so play up to 4 guys if you like them. No issues. Like Carson Young down here seems like a fun 6K play. Play Patton Kizzire in Texas. You got Dylan Wu here, who's everyone's favorite, you know, chronic 6K golfer that should actually be a 7K golfer. Lots of good plays. Lots of good plays from here. Remember, projection 1 to 3. And then the rest of the buckets in the recent forms are 0 to 2 or just probably 0. Like recent form 6, probably just 0. Recent form 5, that's also 0 to 2, but the projection's just miserable. Recent form 4 is 0 to 2 is the projection here. Let's just take a look really quick. Who are those guys? Minwoo Lee, Brian Harmon, Davis Riley. Okay, so 0 to 2 here, which is perfect. Each one of these guys can miss the cut real easy. So 0 to 2 seems like a really good projection. All right, that wraps up the recent form buckets. For the core 4, we'll go into salaries and we'll touch this briefly. So oh my God, I just looked at this is the first time I saw the projections. We went over the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. We saw the 11K golfer inside the top 5 a ridiculous amount. Let's just actually count. So in 2017, we actually had 2 11K golfers, 11K and above golfers inside the top 10. Inside the top 2. Let's just say top 2. 2018, our 11K golfer was 5th. 10-6, by the way, he won the tournament. 2019, Jordan Spieth, 10-9. Did we have an 11K golfer? We might not have. We did. Justin Rose. Okay. Oh, we had a few. John Rahm even. Okay. So, hey, 2019 didn't really work out. This is also the first year the PGA Championship was the week before, so might be doing some foreshadowing. Jordan Spieth, by the way, finished 3rd in that PGA Championship. So if there's any concerns with, you know, like fatigue for Scotty Scheffler finishing 2nd, going deep into the PGA Championship, well, there's Spieth at 10-9. He finished inside the top 10. 2020, we had no tournament beforehand. This was coming back from COVID, so this is probably just a weird one to look at. We'll just skip past this one. 2021. Hey, look, there's Jordo up there at the top of the leaderboard, 11,200. I would imagine he was one of the more expensive ones. Yeah, JT was 11. Was there anyone even more expensive than that? No. Nope. So Jordan was actually your most expensive guy at 11.2. Let's just double check that. I hate saying stuff that I'm not going to prove true. Yeah, Jordan Spieth, most expensive guy. He finished 30th, so he played all 4 rounds of the PGA. He had finished top 10 the year before. Take that for whatever it's worth. By the way, he played the 2 events leading into this one, just like Scheffler. Keep that in mind. That's also going to be Spieth's same thing this year. 2022, there's Scotty. Scotty had missed the cut the week before, so he got an extra 2 days to come here. He had also played 2 weeks heading into this. He'd missed the cut the year before, but still played pretty well. Hey, there's Jordan once again. Once again, with a 2nd place finish, a 34th, and then a 2nd the week before. Do we see that trend once again in 2023? We've got Spieth. Oh my goodness. He didn't play the week before. He didn't play the Byron. He actually played the Wells Fargo Championship. Top 20, 29th place. I mean, that looks like Jordan Spieth the last couple of years. Look at that. Same recent form, 30, 34th place. 2023, finished 29th at the PGA. Recent form was 30th. Here was a little bit better in 2021. Really good recent form, but a 30th place finish at the PGA. So that's, in 2021, that's a 30th place finish. In 2022, that's a 34th place finish. And in 2023, it's a 29th place finish. Is this the automatic Jordan Spieth top 10 week? It probably is, right? Most likely is. Wow. 2019, what did we have Jordan Spieth at? PGA, he actually was a 3rd place finish there. And the recent form was nearly the same. So this is peak Jordan Spieth season right now. How do we not play Jordan Spieth? Okay. Yeah, well, that's your 10K range to consider. That's something to consider. The projection is 1 to 4, or 1 to 3, by the way. And when I first started looking at this bucket here on stream with you guys, I was just like, I saw the numbers 1 to 3. We normally don't see that every single week. This is one of those weeks where starting with a 10K golfer is probably the important thing to do. And you could start Scheffler Spieth. You could start Hovland Spieth. I mean, any of those 10K golfers. Finau Spieth, Morikawa Spieth, Homa Spieth. I think that's fine. But it seems it seems like an automatic Spieth week, honestly. I know he's got a hurt wrist, by the way, so keep that in mind. Everything else is minus the 7K range. 7, you want 1 to 3 golfers in there. Everything else is 0 to 2. So the 9K and the 8K range, your minimums are 1 technically, but the max projections aren't over 2. Even when you come to the conservative max projections, they're not over 2, which means you need a 2-point buffer between the max and the min. Because the max is 2, the min automatically has to be 0. However, these are good buckets to choose from, and it's 100% frequency rate of each one of these price ranges being inside the top 10 every single year. At least one of the golfers being inside the top 10 every year. So keep that in mind. And 987. seems like a good start. 10-9-8-7. Man, I'm just thinking about this. Like, here, let's take a look at 2023. When we've been going through these buckets, Scheffler shows up a bunch in the buckets that are easy to select from. Finau's in a couple bigger buckets with him and other 10K golfers. It might be easy to select Finau's. If you're one of those guys that's just like, well, yeah, I wouldn't play him with like, if I had to choose between him, Morikawa, and Homa, I'm going to choose Finau. Okay, that makes sense. I get it. Really like Hovland this week. So, like, to me, Scheffler and Hovland are easy starting points for me. When it comes to the 9K range, it is hard for me to choose between those three. Spieth, Rose, Fleetwood. I really like Rose. So I might actually do 30% of my lineup starting with Scheffler and Spieth, Rose, or Fleetwood. So it's going to start with Scheffler. And then, so let's just say 33% of my lineups will have Scheffler in them. Of those 33%, I'm going to split them into thirds. So I will have a third of my Scotty lineups having Spieth in them, a third of my Scotty lineups with Rose, and a third of my Scotty lineups with Fleetwood. So I'll do that. Like I said, I like him as a 10K golfer. I also like Hovland as a 10K golfer. I'm going to do the same thing with Spieth, Rose, and Fleetwood there. Then, with the remaining lineups, I'm probably going to start Jordan and Rose or Fleetwood. And you know, build down from there. This will be more of like a balanced build, but holy moly, looking at all these buckets and seeing that Spieth he's trending in the ways that he has trended before, finishing inside the top 10 for this event, hard to ignore. It is hard to ignore. Coming in with the same recent form, basically the damn near same finishing position at the PGA Championship the week before, and having a top 20 finish here the year before. All of these things point towards a Spieth top 10 once again. And if that's the case at $9,900, like, that seems like a slam dunk. Now, I think I'm going to leave some lineup builds not going with Jordan Spieth, because I do want to do Max Homa. Maybe I do a Max Homa Jordan, a Morikawa Jordan, a Finau Jordan. You know what? I figured it out. Well, can't say that. No, I think so. I think that's what we're going to do. And then I'm going to just build one lineup with each one of the other golfers that I'm not playing, throw those into some winner take alls, and just, you know, if those golfers hit, I just get my money back. If not, the golfers that I do like will win a lot of money. I think that's more for a strategy. I'm thinking out loud right now. That's more suited for strategy talk as opposed to preview talk. So let's move on with the last bucket. Actually, let's go for these projections really quick. 10K golfers, I'm projecting 1 to 3 to finish inside the top 10, meaning go ahead, take your fill of 10K golfers. You're going to be just fine. 0 to 2 9K golfers, 0 to 8K golfers, 1 to 3 7K, 0 to 2 high 6K, and 0 to 2 low 6K. My rules usually when it comes to 6K range, don't play more than 2. And if you do play 2, never play 2 of the low 6Ks. You're either going to mix and match 1 high 6K with 1 low 6K, or you're going to double up on 2 high 6Ks. That's kind of my rule when it comes to the 6K range. Now we can move on to the strokes gained buckets. Now I do strokes gained a little different. If you want a better explanation of this, I do have a video on how I do the bucket system. You can check that out in the description below. I'm not going to fully explain this, but everything revolves around off the tee and putting. Strokes gained 1 is everything's positive. That's also approach and around the green. So positive off the tee, positive approach, positive around the green, and positive putting. Strokes gained 2 is positive putting and positive off the tee, with whatever stat in between. Could be negative approach, could be negative around the green, could be negative both of those, but positive off the tee and positive putting. Strokes gained 3 is positive off the tee, negative putting. Strokes gained 4 is negative putting, positive or negative off the tee, positive putting. Strokes gained 5 is negative off the tee, negative putting, and then strokes gained 6 are just no strokes gained stats. So I look at a full calendar year, 365 days. That is how I measure the strokes gained stats. That's how I should say the strokes gained buckets are created. So when it comes to having all stats positive, these are your best golfers in the field, typically. 1 to 3 of those guys. So we can go ahead and take a look at this. Make sure, again, if you're using the cheat sheet, which you can find in the description, a link to the cheat sheet in the description of this video, make sure you have no filters on. And one easy way to do that is just to make sure you don't see a colored in, like if I were to select one, you see how this is colored in? You can also see there's less golfers, but this filter is different than the other filters you see. So you want to make sure that you have all of these. You'd want to select all in every single one to make sure you have every golfer. One other quick way to note this is basically select like column J. Column J is going to count this this cell as your count number, but we can see in the bottom right hand corner of your spreadsheet is a count if you go ahead and select this. Now what you could do is hold the control button and then left click name, and if you see 120 as your count, you've got all the golfers in the field you need to look at. Just that's my easy way to double check. So when it comes to these strokes gained buckets, everything is color coded by strokes gained stats. So go ahead and sort A to Z on this strokes gained bucket, and you can see all the dark green, that's our strokes gained 1. All the light green, strokes gained 2, and then so on and so forth. So 1 to 3 strokes gained 1 is what the projection is. And I'm actually going to open this up so it's the way you see it on yours. So 1 to 3. Well, you could start out with Finau. You could start out with Homa. I would rather start out with Jordan Spieth, believe it or not. He is a strokes gained 1 guy. And it's 1 to 3. Remember that? 1 to 3 is the projection. You could just leave it here. Or maybe like Ricky Fowler. Put Ricky Fowler in your lineups. That would work. Or anyone else. Maybe you want a Spieth and Sungjae lineup. Or a Spieth and Fleetwood lineup. Remember, we like Fleetwood. Why not go that way? So those are ways you could start, or you could fill in some of these other guys down here in your lineups as well. Strokes gained 2 is 0 to 2 as your projection. And then when we look at these guys, we've got Victor Hovland here, Sam Burns, Minwoo Lee. Remember, it's 0 to 2. My suggestion, don't play more than 2. If you wanted to play up to 2, that's fine. I mean, like doing a Hovland Burns lineup seems just fine. Maybe even like a Hovland and any of these guys down here would be just fine as well. 0 to 2 is pretty good. Strokes gained 3. This projection is actually 1 to 3. And that stays constant with the conservative projection over here. So 1 to 3 is the projection. We've got a few more golfers in this one than the other two that we just looked at. Scotty Scheffler is your main guy up top, but we also have Colin Morikawa, who is no slouch. Siwoo Kim seems like a very volatile play that could get you a lot of DraftKings points, so I don't mind that kind of choice. Russell Henley, I like. Cam Davis, my guy Cam Davis. For me, I think starting Scotty Scheffler, Cam Davis seems like the more I look at it, the more I see it, the more I fall in love with it. That's just what I like. That's what I want to do. But the rest of these guys are like Ryan Palmer as a fill-in. You know, like I think these 7K golfers are glue pieces to glue your 10Ks with your 6Ks. I love, you know, thinking that way with a bucket like this because it's really easy to fall in love with Scheffler and Davis, but you could also sub out Davis and then select one of these 7K golfers or even some of these 6K golfers. Remember, the projection is 1 to 4, right? 1 to 3. 1 to 3. My apologies. So I think that stays constant this week as well. Strokes gained 4, 1 to 3 as well. We just scroll down a little bit more and look at that. We've got Justin Rose at the top. We got a lot of golfers in here, by the way. More than we typically see every single week. You've got Rose, McCarthy, Hoagie, Brendan Todd, Harris English. We've talked about those guys already before. Byron, Linda Hughes, favorite golfer in Christian Bezuidenhout. He was just talking about him on his Rainmakers episode. I don't know if I'm going to go there with Bezuidenhout, but if there's one person to know anything about him, it would be Byron. So, hey, not a terrible choice there. Probably not going to talk a lot about the golfers here. I think they're fine to play, you know, somewhere between 5 to 7%. Like, I probably wouldn't go more than that. It's good to have some exposure to them, but not a lot. And then the other two bucket, or actually there's only one other bucket, the Strokes Gained 5. That's 0 to 2. And I wouldn't play more than that. Yeah. Patton Kizzire seems like a pretty decent choice. Same with Dylan Wu. I'm not going any further than that, though. Actually, I shouldn't say it I shouldn't say it like that, but I would just only play one of these guys. And if you feel confident with one of them, so be it. That's fine. I think that works out. But that's going to cover the strokes gained buckets, and more importantly, that covers the bucket system as a whole. So let's go ahead and recap this video. Well, not so much recap it, but let's go with some giveaway reminders. So just double check everything. Hopefully you were following along on the cheat sheet. If you weren't, there was a link in the description below that could have got you to the cheat sheet that I'm showing right now. We have 4 tabs at the bottom of this. I don't have the tournament information put in there just yet, but you've got starting hole, tee time, whatever their game number is, meaning, you know, who the first group's out Thursday. It goes from top to bottom. Whatever wave they are and their group rank. That'll be added when I get tee times tomorrow. Once I also get that, I will build the optimizer for the week. So anyone who's interested in that, all you got to do is be subscribed. Actually, email me right there, SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com, but also make sure you're subscribed. And also leave a comment down below on any of my videos. Just give me your, 2 favorite golfers you want to build your lineups around this week. And then that email address that was just up, just let me know you're interested in the optimizer. Say, hey, I'd love to use the optimizer this week. And as long as I can match your name with whatever was, used on YouTube for your comment, and if I know you're subscribed, all the better. I will send you the optimizer. Of course, hey, we're really close to hitting the monthly sub goal. You can see all the way over there. 550 subscribers was the goal. We're at 544. We just need 6 more. Once we get 6 more, I'm giving away $50 the first Monday of the new month. We don't hit that goal over there, 550 subscribers, I'll give a t-shirt away with this logo on it. Now, not only does your name go into the monthly giveaway, but it also go into next week's giveaway, which will be on Monday during the preview video like I did for this week. Come to think of it, I didn't run a giveaway. I did giveaway reminders. So, hey, good thing I brought this up. Let's do a giveaway. I have it up. I don't know why I didn't run it. This is the first time I've done the giveaway at the end of the video. So hopefully you've watched all the way up till now. Last week I had 56 total entries. That meant 56 unique comments or unique users commenting on my videos. Some of these obviously are repeats. Let me try to rephrase it a different way. Each of the people who did comment didn't leave more than 1 on each of my videos, and of those entries we had 56. So that's pretty good. This actually doubles the monthly subscribers, or the monthly entries so far. We have 66. I will add these 56 after I run the giveaway to the monthly. That'll basically double the amount. So I appreciate all of you guys that were commenting on the videos, who came into the live chat. That was a nice thing that we did. A bunch of live chatters. We had 18 of them. So all of those names got put in there. Thank you all for participating. Let's find our winner. Jim Lemoyne. It's not Joanne. It's a different J. Jim had 3 entries, and the one that won was the DFS PGA, huh? Where does it say that? PGA. Oh, I know why it says that. The first one is the tournament, PGA Championship. And then it was the PGA DFS strategy video for the PGA Championship. So Jim, thank you for participating. You've participated for a very long time. You had 3 entries this week. So, hey, there were some people here that had 7 entries. Anyone who's worried about not having that many entries in here, Jim's living proof. You don't have to have that many to win. Congratulations, Jim. I'll get you your $5. I think I know where to reach you at. But again, you want to get into this giveaway, be subscribed, comment down below. That's all that you need to do on any of the videos that I post. Just participate. That's it. And then, of course, Prize Picks. If you're not on Prize Picks, check the link in the description, or the link in the description of this video. It'll send you to the homepage. You just go and click sign up. The Sweet Spot promo code will be populated in the promo code already. You sign up, put $20 in your account. I'm going to give you $20 back. Prize Picks will match your deposit. That way you'll have $40 in your account, and it really just costs you that original sign up information and the initial deposit. And then my piece of advice, just play Fridays. Look for the protected flex that will be emailed to you. You play that Friday, every single Friday, put $20 in, try to hit your lotto ticket for free. It's just free money, trying to make more free money. Simple, simple, simple. So those are my giveaway reminders. That's all that I have for you guys. So thank you for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.